Major changes are on the horizon for Los Angeles City Council President Herb Wesson. After 8 years of leading the council, he's decided to step away from the presidency and take on new challenges. We sat down with Wesson for a look back at some of the key legislation passed during his tenure and his legacy as the council's first African-American president. Council President Wesson, thank you so much for joining us. So you've led the City Council for 8 years. What have been some of the most memorable moments?
Well, first of all, let me say that 8 years seems like it was only yesterday, and it's probably the biggest honor that I've ever had in my life to serve as the quarterback of the Los Angeles City Council for 8 years. The most important thing to me from a personal perspective is the relationships, the friendships that I have made that are going to last me until I take my last breath. So that is what I will cherish the most, that and the memories, the phenomenal memories. But I'm proud that this council decided 8 years ago that we weren't going to nibble around the edges of issues, that we were going to take them head on. And we also made a commitment to not just work on the easy things, that we would take on the hard issues where people didn't think that we would succeed. So I'm proud of that, and I'm very proud about the unity that we brought on this council, where we felt for 8 years that when we were together that we could do anything, that when we were together we could do more. We've, I think, kind of changed the course of history, not just in the city of Los Angeles, but throughout this country. The winds in this country blow from the west to the east. So I have always believed that people in different cities throughout this country look to Los Angeles for leadership. That's an awesome responsibility. And that's why when President Obama called on the states to take up the charge to raise the minimum wage, that we didn't wait on the state and the city of Los Angeles. We were the largest city in this country to do that. While you have states and cities throughout the nation that are doing everything that they can to make it more difficult, to suppress voter turnout, this city acted to do just the opposite, to make it easier and to ensure that our voter turnout represents what the city of Los Angeles looks at.
In recent years, the city has taken steps to encourage more Angelenos to vote.
When we voted to change the election date, the city's elections were during off periods of time. And because they were during off periods of time, you would get a very low voter turnout. What we were able to do is to connect them to our presidential elections and to our gubernatorial elections. And coming up in 3 months will be the first time that we've done this change. And I anticipate a significant increase in voter turnout. The minimum wage that we've done in the city of Los Angeles, we did that together. And that, I think, has set the tone for not just the rest of the state. In fact, because of what we've done, we think that that spurred on our state electeds to then come back and to do the same. You know, we're the first city, I believe, in this country to create a standing committee that deals with homelessness and poverty. The first city to put a bond measure before the voters of $1.2 billion to build housing for individuals that are sleeping on concrete mattresses. And worked hard, we did, with the County of Los Angeles only a few months later to pass another motion, to pass another measure that gave us over $300 million a year to provide services for the individuals that are living on the streets. And I think that's LA. We are a big city. We do big stuff. That's who we are. That's how we roll. We set the tone. So those are just a few of the things that we've done. In this country, you see this great, and when I say great in a negative way, divide, where individuals are judging people based on the color of their skin, religion they practice, their sexual orientation. In the city of LA, we structured a conversation about race, about religion, about immigration when we created a program called Embrace LA, which is to bring this city together and to have those very difficult conversations, because it's through these difficult conversations that you move forward. So I'm just proud of the many things that we've done. Criminal justice reform, we were one of the first major cities to ban the box that you'd have to check out that indicated that you had some form of a criminal record. This country was built on the belief of second chances, so we want to do everything that we can to help individuals get second chances. We spend too much time concerned about punishing people, and we should spend more time working on how to rehabilitate people so that they can re-enter into the society and be good residents of the great city of LA.
You know, when you walk around the city, homelessness is one of the key issues people talk about. What has the city council done to address this problem?
Well, for the most part, I think that it's been positive, but we still have so much work to do, and we still have so much education to provide. The more people understand about this homeless crisis, that this is a giant onion with many, many layers. There's so many reasons, different reasons why people are on the street. That means it's going to take so many remedies that we have to come up with to try to deal with it. But I think that the residents of this city have accepted that this is an issue and are giving us flexibility to do what we need to do to try to correct it. And one of the things that, again, talking about being proud of, is a motion that I introduced where we would take government-owned property and use that to build affordable housing in a city where affordable housing is the biggest need. And the reason why we want to use government-controlled property is because nobody has to buy it from us. We can work out 55, 60-year ground leases, reduces the cost that it would take to manufacture this housing, to build this housing, and put people in there so that without affordable housing, that's a pipeline, that's a spigot to homelessness as well. What we're finding out is that we need to spend more time on the front end, stopping people before they become homeless. It's much more cost effective, and it does not upset, our communities. And so you see us doing these trend-setting things. When landlords want to get out of the landlord business and sell their property to do some kind of a commercial development or to build condominiums, we're working on a plan where if you do want to get out of the apartment building business, you afford the city the first opportunity to buy this property. And we will partner with nonprofits to come up with a fund so that we can do that. When you buy old properties, it's more cost efficient. You already have tenants inside, so you don't have to displace them. So that's when I said we in Los Angeles, we're the tip of the spear where it relates to change, that the winds in this country blow from the west to the east. It's in doing that kind of stuff where we set an example for the rest of the nation.
You've been very open. Homelessness touches home with you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's important for everybody to know that homelessness can strike anyone. My family has been dealing with a personal crisis where it relates to my older son, who has spent a significant amount of time on the street, who has been incarcerated. And we have a great family and a loving family, and he was afforded the opportunity to do things that a lot of children would envy. But that did not spare him from suffering from depression. It did not spare him from being bipolar. It did not spare him for, unfortunately, becoming addicted to crack cocaine. So my family has been there to do everything that we could to try to put him in a position to straighten his life out and to have some joy and some happiness. And so we as a family, in conversations with him, decided that if we were to tell Los Angeles, look, this is what we're going through, then other people will feel more comfortable in highlighting the various issues that they have to deal with in life. My life has been a wonderful life, but it's still messy. It's still challenges. I am no different from anyone else, and neither are my sons or my wife or my grandkids for that matter. But when people begin to have conversations, and when people found out that my son was on the streets, they want to talk about their aunt, or they want to talk about their nephew, or they want to talk about their daughter. And when people begin to realize that this affects all of us, I think it helps build the momentum necessary to really focus on this as the crisis, the challenge of the day, and that will help us get the resources that we need to be successful in doing this. You and I chatted earlier about having family members from the South. In the South, your business was your business, and you kept it within the family. And my wife and I did that for over 2.5 decades. Maybe some of it because we were maybe embarrassed. We were in pain. But once you admit that you're just human, it lifts a burden off your shoulders and puts you in a position to have a real conversation about the hurt and the pain and the emotional roller coaster. Like I said, at first we were mad. How could you do this to us? Then we were sad. Oh my God, he's got this addiction issue. Or what is he eating tonight? Where is he sleeping? And then we were worried about his embarrassment, that he let the family down. And then we say, oh, if we tell people this, will they say you're not a good parent? It's just so much better when people know that this can happen to anyone.
Wesson believes that by going public with his son's struggles, it may help other families.
If this can happen to me, it can happen to individuals that are wealthy. It can happen to individuals who come from challenging communities. This is America's problem. And this, I believe, will help us focus more attention on the way we treat addiction, and that we really need to treat mental illness, because the most important thing that we can do and have to do quickly is to try to stabilize people. Once you stabilize them, then you give them an opportunity to change their life.
Another key issue in the city and the nation is immigration. And on your watch, the city hired its first immigrant advocate.
The very first in the country. And this happened, I don't even believe that the president was sworn in as the president. But what we want to do in the city of Los Angeles is protect all of our residents. And it's more important to a number of us. You know, what kind of neighbor are you going to be? What kind of American citizen are your children going to be? not what kind of documents you happen to have in your back pocket or in your drawer. And again, we set the example by not only bringing in an expert to help us legally, we also created another full-time committee that deals with immigration rights and human rights.
What's been the reaction?
Initially, it has been great. And I think that since we are one of the, if not the most diverse city in this country, that people expect LA to do that. They expect that we're going to protect all of the residents of the city of Los Angeles. They expect that we judge people here based on their deeds and their actions and not on the color of their skin, where you come from, what religion you practice, or who you might happen to love. We are LA. And, you know, we hope that our lifestyle is contagious and sweeps throughout this nation.
The city has a program called Our Cycle LA. What has been the reaction and what's been accomplished?
I think all studies would show that young people that have access to internet and computers do better in school and do better in life compared to those that don't have those resources. So what we did, I think, from an environmental standpoint, made a lot of sense. Instead of just taking old, damaged computers and tossing them and creating more e-waste, we had thousands upon thousands of them rehabilitated, rehabbed, and fixed so that they worked as if they were brand new. We then partnered with the Obama administration and were able to get what's a Wi-Fi hotspot, so that individuals would have access to the internet. And we then gave these computers with Wi-Fi hotspots out to people who live in challenging communities. If you have to make a choice between providing dinner for your family and being on the internet, you're going to choose providing dinner for your family. So if we can eliminate that decision, we want to do that, and we want to do that more. So we're very proud of Our Cycle LA and the lives that we believe that we will have changed in a very positive way.
You mentioned President Obama. How did the designation of Obama Boulevard come about?
There's a section of the city in the district that I happen to represent where then United States Senator Barack Obama came to officially kick off his presidential campaign in California. He chose us. He chose Rancho Cienega Park, which was located on Rodeo Road. An individual from the community made a recommendation to my office that imagine what it would be like if we took this road and changed the name to President Barack Obama Boulevard. And I began to think about that. In this district, we have Washington Boulevard, Adams Boulevard, Jefferson Boulevard. With the addition of Obama Boulevard, we've created a President's Row. And so when we decided to change the name, we got phenomenal support from the community. And we had this big name-changing ceremony, which drew almost 27,000 people. And the president was unable to attend, but still 27,000 people wanted to be there to celebrate this accomplishment. And for me, it's really kind of a special privilege. You know, I'm the first African American, the first black man to be elected president of the Los Angeles City Council, so I'm humbled by that. But to have the first president of the City Council create a street for the first African American president of the United States of America, that brings me joy. And whenever my job gets tough, whenever I'm down, and again, I'm human like everybody else, so I have days like that, I drive to Obama Boulevard and I kind of recharged my battery, and I'm back out and at 'em.
Someone else the city has recognized is Nipsey Hussle with Nipsey Hussle Square. Why was that important for the council?
Earlier on, we talked about criminal justice and criminal justice reform, and we talked about second chances. And this young fella is talented. Oh, Lord, was he very talented. But I think that he represents what can happen when an individual settles down and makes a choice to redeem and to change his life and to try to give back to the community from whence he came. And he is a shining example to other successful young millennials of the kind of effect that they can have on a region, on a city, on a nation. So we felt that it was very important to recognize and not run away from some of the earlier decisions that he may have made that weren't the right decisions, but to focus on what can happen to you when you do make the right decisions. And he set the example of how important it is to give back. Every time you take a step up the ladder of success, you should stop, turn around, and try to bring someone up with you. And that was an example. When I think about him, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And I guess also, it doesn't count how many times you get knocked down in life. What counts is how many times you get back up.
Another big change is LAX. How did all this come about?
As we try to take our city and truly move it into the 21st century, when you look at the billions of dollars that's being spent at the airport, we were fortunate enough to somehow bring in a phenomenal general manager in Deborah Flint, who not only has helped us through these very challenging times, because it is challenging whenever you're looking at expanding and changing things, but also she created pathways for minorities and people of color to get contracts to participate in this huge expansion. You now see that the city of LA, with Metro and others, putting a focus on expanding our transportation system. So many people complain about our traffic, and rightfully so, but the only way we're going to reduce traffic is to create a real transportation system that is so convenient that you can get back and forth to every corner of the city of LA, with the airport being a very important component of that. So I'm proud that we're doing that, and the more layers that we lay on to our transportation system, the better it's going to be. I always tell people, if you go to a restaurant and you order a bowl of spaghetti, you're going to get a glob of pasta just connecting. That brand new bowl of pasta, that's what the transportation system looks like in other cities and in other countries. In LA, our transportation looks like we've already eaten the pasta, and they're just a couple of strands connecting. So we need to fill up our transportation bowl, and once you do that, then I think you have a real opportunity to get people out of their cars and onto public transportation because of the convenience of it.
In terms of CD10, how have things changed here since you became a council member?
Let me just say this. I was watching Prince on television in a rare interview several years ago before he passed away. And the person that was questioning him said, what was your biggest, with the microphone, what was your biggest accomplishment? What is the best piece of music that you ever created? And his answer was, I have not created it yet. So my answer to you is we've done many, many things in this district that I'm very proud of. But my biggest accomplishment has not occurred yet.
What does the future hold for Herb Wesson?
I'm going to miss just all of the staff at the City of LA, all of the staff. I'm going to miss the staff that actually ran the council floor, and I was dependent upon them. I'm going to miss my colleagues and their staff as well. But in life, nothing lasts forever. And so I'm focusing on wrapping up this chapter. And I have a lot of work still to do, and I have up to next November to do it, so I'm optimistic we'll get it done. But planting the seeds for the next chapter. I heard a wise man say once that the two most important days in anyone's life is number one, the day that you're born, and number two, the day that you discover why you were born. And I believe that I was born to be a public servant, period. So my next chapter will be about serving the people that I love. And I hope it's in a capacity similar to what I'm doing now, but as long as I breathe, I'm going to always try to help others. You know, I'm not one of these guys that's going to be some rich, internet magnate, billionaire. I am a very ordinary man that's had the opportunity to have some very extraordinary jobs. And everything that I've ever done was centered around helping people. Folk think that maybe I was an intern for some high-powered elected official or community activist or big labor leader. I started as a public servant as a youth coach. So there is always an opportunity for any of us that want to help others to help. And that's where I started. I started out as a basketball coach, a Pop Warner football coach, a Little League baseball coach, and from there and those relationships, it propelled me to the point where I am today, an ordinary person who's had an opportunity to do some extraordinary jobs.
Wesson was born in the 1950s before the civil rights movement really gained momentum. While he's seen Los Angeles and the nation undergo many changes, he says what makes this country great is its diversity.
I'm only 39 and holding. So I don't know where you got your information from. Yes, I had the opportunity to grow up during a movement, and I saw magnificent accomplishments. But at this point in time, at this moment in our nation's history, we have to reconnect like we did during that era to make sure that we fight to protect the American dream. The American dream is our dream too, and it's a very simple dream, to live a better life than your parents so that your kids and grandkids live a better life than you. So it is time for us, and one of my greatest abilities, to bring people together to accomplish great things. And so that, at this point in time in our history, it is time for us to not forget that we are the United States of America, not the divided states of America. And what makes us great is our diversity.
You have broken down a lot of barriers. Growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, did you ever imagine any of this was possible?
My dad had maybe an 8th grade education. I was supposed to wind up working on some assembly line, maybe at his side, which would have been a good life. But, the Lord leads you in different directions, and never did I go to sleep as a kid imagining that one day I would be the Speaker of the House of the great state of California or the President of the Los Angeles City Council.